The glory of Elohim, what does it really mean? What does that really mean? And we're going to talk about that for a bit today, because I don't think that people will actually have proper understanding of what it actually means and what the glory of Elohim, to glorify Elohim, actually means in all actuality. Our lesson begins in 1 Samuel chapter 4, verses 17 through 22. Can I have my first reader read 1 Samuel or Shemuel chapter 4, verses 17 through 22?
And the messenger answered and said, Israel is fled before the Philistines, and there had been also a great slaughter among the people. And thy two sons also, Hophni and Phinehas, are dead, and the ark of Elohim is taken. And it came to pass, when he had made mention of the ark of Elohim, that he fell from off the seat backwards by the side of the gate, and his neck broke, and he died. For he was an old man, and heavy, and he had judged Israel 40 years. And his daughter-in-law, Phinehas' wife, was with child, near to be delivered. And when she heard the tidings that the ark of Elohim was taken, and that her father-in-law and her husband were dead, she bowed herself, and travail for pain came upon her. And about the time of her death, the woman that stood by her side said unto her, Fear not, for thou hast borne a son. But she answered not, neither did she regard it. And she named the child Ichabod, saying, The glory is departed from Israel, because the ark of Elohim was taken, and because of her father-in-law and her husband. And she said, The glory is departed from Israel, for the ark of Elohim is taken.
Okay. Now, you guys have heard me say many times that the scripture teaches on different levels and different manners simultaneously. It speaks to you the past, present, and the future simultaneously. Even as Yah would say, I tell the end from the beginning. You know, that's how awesome our El is, that he's capable of doing such. And this is no exception. You know, this had a present day application when it was written and when these things happen. But it also had a futuristic application, and it has an application that even applies to us now today. And that's the application that I want to speak to today concerning First Shemuel, is how it applies to us now today, how this is still playing out in our lives, even as it's played out in the lives of the participants that we read about. Okay, now we read here that this speaks of a time when the ark of Elohim is taken. The ark of Elohim is taken, and in verse 20 says, About the time of death, the woman stood by and said unto her, Fear not, for thou hast borne a son. And she answered not, neither did she regard it, because she was dead. And she named the child Ichabod. You know what I'm saying? The glory is departed from Israel. And truly, even as we seen with who was that? Hosea's children, you know, which was also revelatory of a period of time when things would be a certain way. So is this with Ichabod. This child being born speaks of a time when the glory of Elohim would be departed from Israel. And he was named so because the glory was departed from Elohim, for the ark of Elohim was taken. Now, what does this glory mean? The word glory in Hebrew is kabod, number 35:19, and it means properly means weight, to be heavy, you know, but only in a good sense. You know, because it can, you can have something that's weighty, something that's heavy in a bad sense, because it becomes burdensome. You know, but it only means weighty or heavy in a good sense. Okay, speaking to like honor and respect, reverence. Okay, so when we're talking about the glory is departed from Israel, we're talking about the weight of Yah. The honor, the true reverence of Yah is departed from Israel. You know, so this is what it's speaking to. In 1 Samuel 5, 1 and 2, it reads, "And the Philistines took the ark of Elohim and brought it from Ebenezer unto Ashdod." And verse 2 says, "When the Philistines took the ark of Elohim, they brought it into the house of Dagon and set it in Dagon." Okay, so in the scheme of things, you know, this is speaking to a time when the glory of Elohim would leave Israel, and it will go over to the Philistines. Now, the Philistines, the word Philistine or Philistine speaks to immigrants. And what is an immigrant? An immigrant is one who establishes themselves permanently in an area where they previously did not exist. Okay, so here it is. We see the Ark of Elohim going to a place where they would establish themselves permanently with it in one form or fashion. Where in an area where it previously did not exist. Okay? So this is the scriptural picture that's going on here. Now it says that they brought it from Ebenezer unto Ashdod. Ebenezer means stone of help. So they took it from the stone of help, and we know that our rock is our Elohim. Amen? He's our rock of help. He's our Ebenezer. You know, so this speaks to our Elohim, even Yahuwah, our Elohim. Okay, and Ashdod, they took it from the stone of help, took the glory from the stone of help and took it over to Ashdod. And Ashdod means powerful or ravager. And he was powerful. They were powerful, but they overcame Israel, and they were ravaging. Verse 2 says, "When the Philistines took the ark of Elohim, they brought it into the house of Dagon and set it by Dagon." Okay, so prophetically speaking, this is what happened historically, but prophetically speaking, there will come a time when the glory of Elohim would depart from Israel, and the ark of Elohim would leave Israel and would be taken to the house of Dagon and set by Dagon. Okay? Now, what exactly is the ark? The word ark itself is Aran, number 727 in the Hebrew. It comes from Arah, number 17. You know, it means to pluck in the sense of gathering, the plucking or gathering of something. So, the ark of Elohim is the plucking or gathering of Elohim. So when we speak about the different depictions in scripture that the ark is presented as, we speak about the different depictions of the plucking, that is the gathering of Elohim. Okay, so we're going to go through some of these, and many of them, not most of them. The first one is the holy ark. So the holy ark speaks to the gathering of the plucking or gathering of Elohim that is holy. And holy, of course, means to be set apart for a specific purpose. Not just set apart in and of itself, but set apart for a specific purpose. And that purpose is to serve Elohim. So, the holy ark speaks to the gathering, the plucking and gathering of those that Yah has set apart for a specific purpose to serve him. So, That's what will be depicted in the Holy Ark. The Ark is also called the Ark of Elohim. And in the same sense, it will be the plucking or gathering of Elohim for his purposes. It's also called the Ark of the Covenant. So it's the plucking or gathering of Elohim, of Yahuwah Elohim, of those that he would enter into covenant with. It's also called the Ark of the Testimony because it had the books of the two tablets of the law that testified to Yah, of Yah's law within it. And so it was called the Ark of the Testimony. So it speaks to the plucking, or that is the gathering of the laws that testify of Yahuwah. It's also called the Ark of Thy Strength. So it speaks to the plucking, that is the gathering of Elohim, in which we gain our strength. We gain our strength from those who Yah has gathered, those whom he has plucked and brought together. You know, you're not going to be as strong if you're mixed with, if you're in a gathering of heathens, than as you would be in a gathering of believers. For one believer put 1,000 to flight, and two will put 10,000 to flight. So imagine if you had a whole plucking or gathering of Elohim together, the strength that they would have. Amen? Uh-oh. Wrong button. Then you have the Ark of the Adonai. And we know our Adonai is Yahushua. You know, so it also speaks to the plucking or gathering of Yahushua. And then there's the Ark of the El of Israel. See, because Yahuwah Elohim has not shown himself, and has not depicted himself anywhere in Scripture to be the El of any other nation other than Israel. So we're talking about the plucking and gathering of the Elohim of Israel, just in case anyone gets it twisted. We're talking about the plucking and gathering of the El of Israel. And these are the different names for the Ark. These are how the Ark is depicted in Scripture. You know, so you see that it speaks to the plucking and gathering of Elohim in different aspects. Oh, and then the final one is the Ark of Yahuwah. It's also known as the Ark of Yahuwah because he is that El of Israel. He is Yahuwah Elohim. And he is ultimately the personification of that plucking and gathering of the one that's doing that plucking and gathering. That is the El of Israel. Now, it's said that the Ark of Elohim will be taken into the house of Dagon. And I want you to know that spiritually speaking that the Ark of Elohim, the glory of Elohim has departed on the most part from Israel today. The glory has departed in the sense that they are not recognizing and adhering to the weight of Elohim. You know, when you think archaically, when you think of something that was heavy, when you think of something that carried a lot of weight, you have to think of something that was valuable. See, because all the treasures of the world at that time was measured by weight. The silver and gold, and as well as the garments, were all measured by weight. These were the things that was considered the treasures of Israel, and they were attributed to weight to give them value. So when we start talking about the glory of Elohim, we're talking about the things that are weighty, of Elohim. It was talking about giving him the proper weight, valuing him. He's to be the head of our value system. He's to be valued above all else. So they took that weight of Elohim, the glory of Elohim, that was even with the ark of Elohim, which speaks to the plucking or gathering of Elohim, and they took it over and they placed it in the house of Dagon. And we can see evidence today that the plucking or gathering of Elohim, i.e. the ark of Elohim, is still in the house of Dagon. Here we have a picture of the Pope wearing the hat of Dagon, the hat that the high priest of Dagon would wear, called the fish hat. Now it said that the ark of Elohim would be taken into the house of Dagon, and this is evidence now today that it is in the house of Dagon. But some peculiar things happened while the ark of Elohim was in the house of Dagon. Well, we're going to digress for a second. We're going to go back and speak as to why it left to begin with. I think my slide got a little out of place. Let me see if I can work around this. Well, we're just going to try to roll with it. Now, hold on 1 second. Okay. 1 Samuel 2:12-17 says, "Now the sons of Eli were sons of Belial." Belial means worthless, and lawless. So now the sons of Eli were sons of Belial. They were worthless. They were lawless. They knew not Yahuwah. And it goes on to say, and the priest's custom with the people was that when any man offered sacrifice, the priest servant came while the flesh was in seething with a flesh hook of 3 teeth in his hand, and he struck it into the pan or kettle or cauldron or pot. All that the flesh hook brought up, the priest took for himself. So they did in Shiloh unto all the Israelites that came thither. Also, before they burnt the fat, the priest servant came and said unto the man that sacrificed, "Get a flesh to roast for the priest, for he would not have sodden flesh of thee." Even though sodden flesh was what was commanded. He would not have sodden flesh of thee, but raw. And if any man said unto him, "Let them not fail to burn the fat presently, and then take as much as thy soul desire." Then he would answer him, "Nay, but thou shalt give it me now, and if not, I will take it by force." Wherefore the sin of the young men was very great before Yahuwah, for men had whored the offering of Yahuwah. Okay, now all this is a depiction of how things got to be to where the glory of Elohim departed. Because this is actually showing the glory of Elohim had departed with the priesthood. Eli was the high priest during this time, and his sons, which were to follow him, one of them was supposed to become the high priest, but they knew not Yahuwah. So Eli failed somewhere in teaching his sons of Yahuwah and seeing to it that they adhered to Yahuwah. And so this was a show, in all actuality, this was a show of the glory of Elohim departing from Israel. See, because the priesthood, they were the leaders of Israel during this time. There was no kings during this time. So the priesthood was set up as the leaders, and as with true leadership, at least from a scriptural viewpoint, the leaders were the first ones into something. They was the first ones, into it, and everyone behind them followed. And so this was the example that the priesthood had begun to set. And via this example, the men of Israel abhorred the offering of Yahuwah. So if they abhorred the offering of Yahuwah, what do you think happened with the offering of Yahuwah? They began, it began to cease. People began to stop offering to Yahuwah because it was abhorred. They abhorred, they hated it. They hated what they had to go through. So this is what was going on. And it began because the glory of Elohim had departed from the priesthood. They were no longer viewing the word of Elohim as weighty. They no longer valued the teachings and instructions of Elohim. And as a result, Eli's sons gave birth to the sons of Belial that knew not Yahuwah. And they began to do atrocious things, such as we're reading about. 1 Samuel 2:27 through 29 goes on to say, and there came a man of Elohim unto Eli, and Eli's name means lofty in all actuality. And that's what the priesthood became. They became lofty. They became prideful, puffed up. And said unto him, thus saith Yahuwah, did I plainly appear unto the house of thy father when they were in Egypt in Pharaoh's house? And did I choose him out of all the tribes of Israel to be my priest, to offer upon my altar, to burn incense, to wear an ephod before me? And did I give unto the house of thy father all the offerings made by fire of the children of Israel? Wherefore kick ye at my sacrifice and at mine offering, which I have commanded in my habitation in his house? And honorest thy sons above me, to make yourselves fat with the chiefest of all the offerings of Israel, my people. Wherefore Yahuwah Elohim of Israel saith, I said indeed that thy house and the house of thy father should walk before me forever. But now Yahuwah saith, be it far from me. For them that honor me, I will honor. And they that despise me shall be lightly esteemed. Behold, the days come that I will cut off thine arm and the arm of thy father's house, that there should not be an old man in thine house. See, now this was the result of them not valuing Elohim. This was the result of the glory of Elohim leaving Israel. In that the priesthood was the leadership, and Yah looked at all of Israel as one. And so the priesthood being the head, the glory left them, then it was only a matter of time before it left the rest of the body. For after the head, the body will follow. Now this speaks of Yah's plan to cut out the Aaronic priesthood, which we see now today has come to pass even as it came to pass during this time. Even as it came to pass during this time, it has come to pass once again during our time. The Aaronic priesthood is cut off. There's no temple. No place for them to offer sacrifices. Now, when the glory of Elohim leaves, it will always bring about blindness. Whenever we begin to not properly value the word of Elohim, whenever we begin to not give it the weight, the value in our lives that it deserves, we will begin to become spiritually blind. Hence we read of Eli, that is the lofty becoming blind, which resulted in the light of Elohim to go out of the holy place. In 1 Samuel 3, 1 through 4, let me have my next reader read 1 Samuel 3, 1 through 4.
And the child Samuel ministered unto Yahweh before Eli, and the word of Yahweh was precious in those days. There was no open vision. And it came to pass at that time, when Eli was laid down in his place, and his eyes began to wax dim, that he could not see. And there, an ear, the lamp of Elohim went out in the temple of Yahweh, where the ark of Elohim was. And Samuel was laid down to sleep. That Yahweh called Samuel, and he answered, Here I am.
Okay, the holy place which speaks to one's heart, mind, emotions, etc. This is the holy place. For, we spoke about the tabernacle being as a man laid out in the wilderness, and the holy place spoke to where all the vital organs were. This is where the Hebrews, they recognized the stomach as, and that area as being, the midsection as being the place of the heart. The place of one's emotions, where one's mind was. Good. And the holy place speaks to there, and we know in the holy places is where the table of showbread was, which speaks to the word of Elohim, and the menorah, which speaks to the light, our understanding, the perception of that word, because you couldn't see the bread if you turned off the light, and also where the golden altar of incense was, which spoke to the intercessory prayers. Now here it is, we have a holy place, and the light goes out. You don't know where anything is, you're blinded. And this, spiritually speaking, this is speaking to someone becoming spiritually blind. They no longer understand the things of Elohim. Now this is crucial when that someone is the head of Yah's people. Because as that leadership, as that head becomes blind, then the rest of the body becomes blind as well. See, and this is on a spiritual plane, this is what was happening during Shemuel's time. And this is what happened, during the history of Israel as a whole. And you can even see where we are now today in this. The holy place was allowed, in the holy place was the menorah. The menorah was supposed to never go out. The priest was to always maintain oil in the lamp, that it would never go out. See, but because the glory of Elohim had departed from the priesthood, because they wasn't valuing the word of Elohim, because they wasn't given the proper weight it deserves, the high priest, that is the leadership, became blind. Their eyes waxed dim. They couldn't understand the things of Elohim anymore, and they became blind. And when they became blind, they didn't know when the oil was running low, which resulted in the lamp of Elohim going out. And that was where the ark of Elohim was. The ark representing the plucking, the gathering of Yah's people. Okay? And it was during this time, it says, and Shemuel was laid down to sleep, that Yahuwah called Shemuel, and he answered, Here am I. See, because I'm bringing this out because this is where we are now today. Once again, this has happened. Once again, the glory of Elohim has departed from the leadership. Once again, the leadership have become blind. Once again, they have allowed the golden candlestick to run low on oil and the light to go out. So once again, they find themselves in darkness, not understanding the word of Elohim. Okay? Now, when the glory of Elohim leaves a man, whether that man is an individual, such as you and I, the many-member body, the many-member Israel, such as Israel of old, whom y'all looked at as one man, or the many-member body of Yahushua, if you would. Whenever the glory of Elohim leaves a man, it will bring about blindness. And that blindness will result in the light, that is the perception, the understanding of Yah's of Yah's will, way, and purposes going out in the holy place. And when this happens, the ark is soon to follow. When that happens, the ark is soon to follow. See, because the true people the true plucking or gathering of Elohim, which the ark depicts, they are going to ever value the word of Elohim. Because within them, they're even as the ark, and within the ark was nothing but the word of Elohim. So, as the ark depicts, wherever the ark goes, so will those who value Elohim also go. They're inseparable. But they left out of Israel as a whole, and they went over to the house of Dagon. Has Elohim left the building? Yes, he has. Since the time of Yahushua and his apostles, Yah has been calling the Shemuels, the Samuels, to replace the Aaronic priesthood once again. This is the priesthood of Melchizedek. This is what happened during the time of Yahshua. This is what's going on even now today. Matthew 16:13-19 says, when Yahushua came into the coast of Caesarea Philippi, he asked his disciples, saying, whom do men say that I, the Son of Man, am? And they said, some say that thou art Yochanan the Baptist, and some say Elias, and others Yirmiyahu, and others of one of the prophets. He saith unto them, but whom say ye that I am? Whom ye say that I am? And Simon Peter answered and said, thou art Messiah, the Son of the living Elohim. And Yahushua answered and said unto him, blessed art thou, Simon Bar-Jonah, for flesh and blood have not revealed it unto thee, but my Father which is in heaven. Now, this is the same thing going on. We see the same thing going on there as what's going on here in 1 Samuel 3:4. It says, Yahuwah called Shemuel, and he answered, here I am. Here am I. Shemuel's name means hearing of Elohim. And here it is, we see Simon Peter. Simon's name actually means hearing of Elohim. Well, actually means hearing. And Peter means rock. You know, and a rock is something that's rough and tough and indestructible, pretty much. Unmovable sometimes, depending on how big it is. And this is what's entailed within this picture of Simon Peter. And he said, the Messiah, the Son of the living Elohim, that's who his master was. And Yahushua said, blessed art thou, Simon Bar-Jonah, the hearing son of Jonah. Now Jonah means dove. And it was the dove that descended upon Yahushua when he was baptized. Even the Ruach HaKodesh in the form of the dove. So saying Simon Bar-Jonah is the same as saying the hearing son of the Ruach HaKodesh. You know, and prayerfully speaking, we have some Simon Bar-Jonahs in here. Some hearing sons of the Ruach HaKodesh. And he goes on to say, for flesh and blood have not revealed it unto thee, but my Father which is in heaven. So in other words, the Holy Spirit, the Spirit of the Father in heaven, is who revealed that to Simon Bar-Jonah. That's who he was hearing. Even as Shemuel was hearing of Elohim. Even as those of us who hear of Elohim nowadays. Verse 18, and I say also unto thee that thou art Peter, and upon this rock I will build my ecclesia. Upon what rock? Upon the unmovable rock, upon the one that's hearing, the hearing son of the Ruach HaKodesh. Upon that rock. That's the rock that's unmovable. That's the rock that's rough and tough. The one that hears of the Ruach HaKodesh. The hearing son of the Ruach HaKodesh. The hearing son of Elohim. That is what Yah built his ecclesia upon. It's not so much as Peter the man per se, but it's the thought behind, the spiritual understanding behind what he represented, which is the Son of Elohim that hears from the Heavenly Father. Upon those hearing sons of Elohim, did Yahushua build his ecclesia, and is he still yet building his ecclesia, and still, as it says in verse 18, and the gates of hell shall not prevail against him. And I will give unto thee the keys of the kingdom of heaven, and whatsoever thou shalt bind on earth shall be bound in heaven, and whatsoever thou shalt loose on earth shall be loosed in heaven. You know, and again, it's still the sons of Elohim, that's the sons of the Ruach HaKodesh, that's hearing of Elohim, you know, that has these keys. 1 Samuel 5, 3 through 5, and it says, and when they of Ashdod arose early on the morrow, behold, Dagon was fallen upon his face to the earth before the ark of Yahweh Elohim. And they took Dagon and set him in his place again. You know, now, this is what happens when you send those who are plucked or gathered of Yahuwah Elohim, and you put them in a foreign place, and you put them before some other god. That god will always fall before them, because they're not going to serve none other than Yahuwah Elohim. Verse 4 says, and when they arose early on the morrow morning, behold, Dagon was fallen upon his face to the ground before the ark of Yahuwah, and the head of Dagon and both the palms of his hands were cut off upon the threshold. Only the stump of Dagon was left to him. Therefore, neither the priest of Dagon nor any that come into Dagon's house tread on the threshold of Dagon and Ashdod to this day. So, here's a depiction of, here it is, Dagon. He had failed the first time, they set him back up. You know, but when he failed the second time, his head was severed and his hands were severed. So in other words, the leadership of Dagon, you know, this priesthood, they were severed, and their works, the works that they used to do, was severed. But yet, the stump remained. The stump remained. And this is why we see, you know, we see that the stump still remained today, with the Pope wearing the fish god hat, Dagon's hat. You know, and all the literature concerning Dagon and how they used to worship Dagon is destroyed. There's very, very little as to how they worship Dagon that exists today. It's all but gone. The only thing they really have left are a few pictures of what their priests looked like. And they all wore the fish hat, even as we see the Pope. So we see the stump still here, but we can't find any literature as to how they worship Dagon, or, you know, all that's been done away with. The hands have been cut off. The head have been cut off. It's just the remnant that exists, that's left of the god Dagon. And we see that even now today, that this stump still remains. We have my next reader read 1 Samuel 5, 6 through 10, please.
But the land of Yehu was heavy upon them of Ashdod, and he destroyed them and smote them with emerods, even Ashdod and the coast thereof. And when the men of Ashdod saw that it was so, they said, the ark of the Elohim of Israel shall not abide with us. For his hand is sore upon us, and upon Dagon our God. They sent, therefore, and gathered all the lords of the Philistines unto them, and said, "What shall we do with the ark of Elohim of Israel?" And they answered, "Let the ark of Elohim of Israel be carried unto Gath." And they carried the ark of Elohim of Israel about thither. And it was so, that after they carried it about, the hand of Yahuwah was against the city with a great destruction, and he smote the men of the city, both small and great. And they had emerods in their secret parts. Therefore they sent the ark of Elohim to Ekron. And it came to pass, as the ark of Elohim came to Ekron, that the Ekronites cried out, saying, "They have brought about the ark of Elohim of Israel to us, to slay us and our people."
Okay. Okay, let's define a couple terms. Gath means winepress. Ekron means eradication. It speaks to something that's torn up by the roots. Now we see in verse 6 it says, but the hand of Yahuwah was heavy upon them of Ashdod. So even though they took the glory of Elohim, and they took the ark of Elohim, those that were plucked up of Elohim, and they would take them into their land. They would take them into where the powerful was, the ravager was. You know, he would smoke them with emerods. You know, he would cause them to break out. You know, and have emerods all over. And it says, and when the men of Ashdod saw that it was so, they said, the ark of Elohim of Israel shall not abide with us, for his hand is sore upon us and upon Dagon our God. You know, and we can see this as happened during the time after Yahshua and where we are now today. We can see it happen to Israel during this time as well as later. You know, with them being taken into Israel being, or Yahudah being taken into captivity with Babylon. You know, so again, the scripture teaches the past, present, and the future all at the same time. You know, and so it's applicable for, and that's the awesomeness of Yah and the wonder of his word, you know, is that it applies to the reader no matter what time that they're reading it. You know, and that's just awesome. And it says, they sent there before and gathered all the lords of the Philistines, and they wanted to get the ark back. Not yet. They wanted to take the ark. They took it from Ashdod, which the powerful, you know, the powerful one, and it was like, okay, well, we're going to send it over to Gath. And Gath means wine press. So they sends it over to the wine press, and it was so that when it got over there, that the same thing was happening. They was like, you know, we need to get this up out of here. You know, because they got over there and emerods started breaking out in their secret parts. You know, see, and this is what Yah would do, you know, because Yah is the light. He exposes everything. See, and this is what the plucking, the gathering of Yah, i.e. the ark of Elohim, will cause. It will cause, you know, the secret parts to be exposed. It will cause them to break out. You know, hence we see, like with the priest of the Catholic priest, we see they broke out. We seen that they had emerods. You know, when it was brought out that they were molesting young boys. You know, we can look at that as spiritual emerods. You know, breaking out in their secret parts. And it says, okay, they had enough of that, so they sent the ark over of Elohim over to Ekron. And Ekron speaks to eradication, something that's torn up to the root. So they really, you know, there's a spiritual picture going on here of them trying to destroy, trying to eradicate the gathering, the plucking or gathering of Elohim. They're trying to just straight up get rid of them, tear them up from the roots. But of course that didn't work either, because Yah is their protector. Let me have my next reader read 1 Samuel 5, 11 and 12, as well as 1 Samuel 6, 1 through 5.
So they sent and gathered together all the lords of the Philistines and said, Send away the ark of the Elohim of Israel, and let it go again to his own place, that it slay us not and our people. For there was a deadly destruction throughout all the city. The hand of Elohim was very heavy there. And the men that died not were smitten with emerods, and the cry of the city went up to heaven. And the ark of Yahuwah was in the country of the Philistines even more, 7 months. And the Philistines called for the priests and the diviners, saying, What shall we do to the ark of Yahuwah? Tell us wherewith we shall send it to his place. And they said, If you send away the ark of the Elohim of Israel, send it not empty, but in any wise return him a trespass offering. Then ye shall be healed, and it shall be known to you why his hand is not removed from you. Then said they, What shall be the trespass offering which we shall return to him? They answered, 5 golden emerods, the 5 golden mice, according to the number of the lords of the Philistines, for one plague was on you all, and on your lords. Wherefore ye shall make images of your emerods, and images of your mice that mar the land. And ye shall give glory unto the Elohim of Israel. Peradventure he will lighten his hand from off you, and from off your gods, and from off your land.
Okay, so here it is. We see that, they done brought the Ark of Elohim. They're taking it to the different places over here in the Philistine nation, and they're not having any success. So the leaders of the Philistines says, send away the Ark of Elohim of Israel and let it go again to his own place, that it slay us not and our people. They got tired of it killing them. See, because Yah was plaguing them. See, and Yah is, whenever we have the plucking, that is the gathering of Elohim, who gives the proper weight, that is the proper value to the word of Elohim in a place. And they try to come up against that. There will always be a plague amongst the wicked. And he will always bring about a destruction. Whether or not they acknowledge it, or whether or not it is exposed on the forefront, it's going on. Even as it's going on even now. And eventually they're going to have to send it back home. Eventually they're going to have to let the Ark of Elohim go back to where it belongs. And it says the men that died not were smitten with the emerald. So he was not only just exposing, giving them emeralds in their secret parts and exposing them, but folks were dying as well. And his hand was heavy. It says the cry of the city went up to heaven. And the Ark of Yahuwah was in the country of the Philistines 7 months, which just speaks to a particular time period. It speaks to a time, when it was perfect in the heavenlies and perfect in the earthly realm, that Yah had set aside a particular time. In verse 5, it says, 6:5 says, Wherefore ye shall make images of your emerods and images of your mice that mar the land. And ye shall give glory unto the Elohim of Israel. And this just speaks to, spiritually speaking, speaks to the riches of the wicked being stored up for the righteous. Even as Israel, when they left out of Mitzrayim, they didn't leave out empty-handed. They didn't leave out, broken in despair. They left out, with riches, and this is a depiction of that as well. Let me have my next reader, 1 Samuel 6, 7 through 12.
1 Samuel 6, 7 through 12.
First Samuel 6, verses 7 through 12. Now therefore make a new cart, and take 2 milk kine on which there hath come no yoke, and tie the kine to the cart, and bring their calves home from them. And take the ark of Yahuwah, and lay it upon the cart, and put the jewels of gold, which ye return him for a trespass offering, in a coffer by the side thereof, and send it away, that it may go. And see if it goeth up by the way of his own coast to Beth Shemesh. Then he hath done us this great evil. But if not, then we shall know that it is not his hand that smote us. It was a chance that happened to us. And the men did so, and took 2 milk kine, and tied them to the cart, and shut up their calves at home. And they laid the ark of Yahuwah upon the cart, and the coffer with the mice of gold, and the images of their emerods. And the kine took the straight way to the way of Beth Shemesh, and went along the highway, lowing as they went, and turned not aside to the right hand or to the left. And the lords of the Philistines went after them unto the border of Beth Shemesh.
Okay, so we see what comes next in the story. You know, the Philistines, the lords of the Philistines, they decided to send the Ark of Elohim back, but they wanted to know for certain, you know, was these plagues because of this ark? You know, was this really the cause? They felt it was, you know, but they weren't sure. They wasn't 100% positive, so they wanted to be sure. So they came up with this ploy, you know, to make a new cart and take 2 milk kine, of which there have come no yoke, and tie the kine to the cart. In other words, these cows, they were nursing. They were nursing their children, and they had not ever been yoked. So that is, they weren't trained, you know. So and their natural inclination would be to be with their children, to look after their children, because, you know, they know their children are still nursing. So they take these 2 because they know that they're going to go home, you know, under normal circumstances. So they use these, and they tie the kine to the cart, to this new cart, you know, and they put the ark of Yahuwah upon it. See, and this is just a spiritual picture of them putting the plucking or gathering of Yahuwah upon a new cart. You know, and this is not what Yah, this is not the way that Yah intended the ark to be carried. It was supposed to be carried upon the shoulders of men. But they put it on a new cart, which speaks to a new religion in all actuality. And they put these 2 kine, or you could even say a new covenant, if you would. You know, you take this, they put it on here, and they let them go, and they went straight back to the land of Israel. But check out where they went. They went to Beth Shemesh. And verses 13 through 15 of 1 Samuel 6 says, and they of Beth Shemesh were reaping their wheat harvest, and in the valley was reaping their wheat harvest in the valley, and they lifted up their eyes and saw the ark and rejoiced to see it. Now, Beth Shemesh literally means the house of the sun. You know, so when the ark, that is the gathering, the plucking or gathering of Elohim, that the glory of Elohim, those who give the proper value to Elohim, would be sent back. They will be sent back on a new cart, i.e. with a new covenant, which wasn't supposed to be carried on a new cart, i.e. a new religion. But that's the way they sent it back. And they had these 2 kine, and they brought it straight back, and they took it to Beth Shemesh. They took it to the house of the sun. And when they got there, they were reaping their wheat harvest. And it says, and the cart came into the field of Joshua, which is actually Yahushua. You see what's going on? The cart came into the field of Yahushua, so it came back to Yahushua. It says a Beth Shemite, and stood there where there was a great stone, even the rock of Elohim. And they clave the wood of the cart and offered the kind of burnt offering unto Yahuwah. And the Levites took down the ark of Yahuwah and the coffer that was with it, wherein the jewels of gold were, and put them on the great stone. And the men of Beth Shemesh offered burnt offerings and sacrifices the same day unto Yahuwah. Okay, now this actually happened in history, and it happened again later, you know, with the house of Judah when they did come back. You know, they came back with a whole lot of sun worship, you know, and the true believers they were worshiping the sun. There was a lot of sun worship back then, even when Yahshua came. And the cart came into the field of Yahshua. It's just a depiction of when the glory of Elohim will come to Yahshua and the house of the sun. He is the light. Well, in Acts 2, 1 through 4, we see a depiction of that happening during Yahshua's time. It says, and when the day of Pentecost, which was the wheat harvest, was fully come, they were with one accord, all with one accord in one place, and suddenly there came a sound of heaven as of a rushing wind, and it filled all the house where they were sitting, and there appeared unto them cloven tongues like as a fire, and it sat upon each of them, and they were all filled with the Ruach HaKodesh, and began to speak with other tongues as the Ruach gave them utterance. Okay, this was a brand new thing. You know, this was a brand new thing, and it ushered in a brand new way called quote unquote Christianity. You know, during this time, 3,000 of the Yahudim would be saved. A little later, another 5,000 would be saved, making up the number 8 because it was a new beginning. You know, this is nothing but a spiritual depiction of what happened in 1 Samuel, and it's going to happen again in our time. During one of these wheat harvests, the Ruach HaKodesh is going to fall upon us. And it's going to be the same thing all over again. You know, but let's see what happens. It says in verses 16 and 17, when the 5 lords of the Philistines had seen it, they returned to Ekron the same day. And these are the golden emeralds which the Philistines returned for a trespass offering unto Yahuwah. One for Ashdod, one for Gaza, one for Ashkelon, one for Gath, one for Ekron, one. And this is exactly how the enemy will come at us. They will come, they will be powerful, they will come with a stronghold. Just as they come powerfully to overpower us. You know, and then they place us in their strongholds, and then they come at us with their weighing place. They'll take us to their weighing place, you know, which speaks to our value system. And they'll try to get us to value something other than Yah. You know, such as money or whatever it is, cars and clothes and material things, you know, cares of this world. And if that doesn't work, then they'll take you to Gath, to the wine press, and they'll try to persecute you and make you comply. And if that doesn't work, then they'll take you to Ekron and try to totally eradicate you. Try to pull every believer up from the roots. But we serve an El that will defend us, an El that will stand in the gap for us. Verse 18 says, and the golden mice, according to the number of all the cities of the Philistines, belonging to the 5 lords, both of fenced cities and of country villages, even unto the great stone of Abel, whereon they set down the ark of Yahuwah, which stone remaineth unto this day in the field of Yahushua, the Beth Shemite. Okay, and again, even unto the field of Yahushua, the Beth Shemite. So it's still speaking about Yahushua in this house of the sun. And we're going to talk about a little bit about this ancestral house of the sun, because Yahushua is still yet in the house of the sun, you know, for many people. Yah willing, he's not in the house of the sun for us, but he's in the house of the sun for many people. And, well, let me see, when we consider that, him being in the house of the sun, you know, it goes in conjunction with the sun god. And when we look at the sun gods, it's particularly the one Mithras, in which Constantine, he was the one that actually gave power to the Roman Catholic Church. You know, but he was also the high priest of Mithras. And what he did was blend the two religions, which were already similar to begin with, so it wasn't very difficult to do. You know, and we're going to take a look at some of these similarities. And this is just some of them. You know, Mithra was born on December 25th of the Virgin Anahita. And of course, you know, they would say, or they purport that Yahushua was born on December 25th, but we know better. But just to show the similarity of how they have put our Messiah in the house of the sun. You know, Mithra, the babe, was wrapped in swaddling clothes, placed in a manger, and attended by shepherds. Even as our Messiah. He was considered a great traveling teacher and master. He had 12 companions or disciples. He performed miracles. As the great bull of the sun, Mithra sacrificed himself for world peace. He ascended to heaven. Mithra was viewed as the good shepherd, the way, the truth, and the light. The Redeemer, the Savior, and the Messiah. Mithra was omniscient, as he hears all, sees all, knows all, and none can deceive him. He was identified with both the lion and the lamb. His sacred day was Sunday, often called the Lord's Day. His religion had a Eucharist or Lord's Supper. Mithra sets his mark on the foreheads of the soldiers. What do you see the Catholic priests do every time they, you know, and the Catholics do every time they get ready to enter into the aisle? Put their mark on their foreheads. Mithraism emphasized baptism. You know, and there are actually more similarities, if you can believe it or not. You know, so as we can see, there are many similarities betwixt Christianity and Mithraism, so much so that many scholars have made apologies and stated that, you know, the devil did it. You know, it was a ploy of the devil all along. You know, yet it's depicted right here in 1 Samuel. And it wasn't the devil that done it. You know, we see that, according to 1 Samuel, it was Yah who done it. To understand, we must first understand leadership from a scriptural perspective. You know, because wherever the leadership go, the body will follow, the rest will follow. Yah looks at us all as one. And this is very important. See, this is why our Messiah, which is our leader, our head, you know, had to come and show us. He had to lead us into the kingdom of Elohim. You know, he was the first one to encounter the troubles that the rest of us will encounter in traveling to the kingdom of Elohim. Hence he would say, you know, hey, if they talk about me that talk about you. If they persecuted me, they'll persecute you. He was the first one, so that we'll know what we have to go through, so we won't be caught off guard. So we know if we're doing things right. All we have to do is do it like he done it. That said, it first came about due to the glory of Elohim leaving the priesthood of Elohim, because they were the priesthood of Israel, I should say, because they were the leaders of Israel, which resulted in the glory of Elohim leaving Israel. You know, whenever someone allow the glory of Elohim to depart from them, that is, they allow the value of Yah's word, they don't give it its proper weight, they don't give it its proper value, whenever they begin to disvalue or lighten it, then the glory of Elohim leaves. And that will result in blindness. And that blindness will result in that candlestick being removed, or the light being put out, to say it another way. You know, so that's very important, a very important concept to understand. That's how it happened then, and that's how it repeated and kept repeating and still repeating today. You know, on a national level as well as an individual level. You know, when we begin to lose the glory of Elohim, when we begin to not give the word of Elohim the proper weight in our lives, the same thing happens. The same thing happens. When we begin to not give them the proper weight in our lives, it will cause our eyes to become dim and for us to become blind to his understandings as well. And it will cause the ark of Elohim to leave from us as well. Now, the Emperor Constantine the Great of Rome, who was from 306 to 337, also held the title of Pontifex Maximus, which literally means high priest of the sun. High priest of the sun god Zeus or Apollo, which the Greek spoke to as Nimrod and Tammuz. He was the high priest of his god Apollo, which is also known as Mithra, the sun god. You know, this is the one who would empower the Roman Catholic Church, in which over half the believers in Yahushua lay claim to. There's about 2 billion quote-unquote Christians today, and over 1 billion plus are Roman Catholics. The Pope is still referred to as the Pontiff or Pontifex even now today. This era is sometimes referred to as post-Christendom. You know, after Constantine empowered the Roman Catholic Church, you know, that era is sometimes referred to as post-Christendom. It is called so because, in large part, this is when the world views, ideologies, religious movements, and societies term Christian now today term Christian back then no longer were rooted in the language and assumptions of what had previously been called, being common to the original followers of Yahushua. You know, what the original followers of Yahushua was doing is no longer entailed in what the followers of Yahushua would be doing after post-Christendom. They would open the doors and let all kind of worldviews, ideologies, religious movements, and societies under the name of Christianity come into, you know, what was once sacred to Yahuwah Elohim. Now, Beth Shemesh, as you continue on in the story, you'll see that they look into the ark, you know, and Yah begins to destroy them. He destroyed over 50,000 of them, which is unbelievable, a huge amount, you know, for looking into the ark. And this is depicted by post-Christendom. You know, because during post-Christendom is when they began forcing people to accept Messiah under threat, duress, and coercion. They literally killed tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people who refused to submit to this new form of Christianity. you know, which brought about the watered down version we have today. In 1 Samuel 7, 1 and 2, it says, and the men of Kiriath Yearim came and fetched up the ark of Yahuwah and brought it into the house of Abinadab in the hill and sanctified Eleazar's son to keep the ark of Yahuwah. And it came to pass while the ark abode in Kiriath Yearim that the time was long, for it was 20 years, and all the house of Israel lamented after Yahuwah. Now, Kiriath Yearim means city of forest. You know, and as we see here, what comes next is the men of Kiriath Yearim came and they took the ark from out of Beth Shemesh. You know, and the men of Kiriath Yearim, that's a tongue twister. Kiriath Yearim actually speaks to the Gentiles. You know, and it says it was a long time that it was there, 20 years, which speaks to redemption until all the Gentiles that's redeemed of Yahuwah be gathered into that plucking and gathering of Elohim, you know, which the ark represents. So we see that it's in the forest, it's in the city of forest, so that it can gather all the righteous trees that's in the forest. And it says all the house of Israel lamented after Yahuwah. Well, they're just going to have to wait. And we see this was even prophesied. We see it depicted in Isaiah 56, 6 through 10. It says, and the sons of the stranger that join themselves to Yahuwah, to serve him, to love the name of Yahuwah, to be his servants, everyone that keepeth the Sabbath from polluting it and taketh hold of my covenant, even them will I bring to my holy mountain and make them joyful in my house of prayer. Their burnt offerings and their sacrifices shall be accepted upon my altar, for my house shall be called the house of prayer for all people. See, this was always the intention of Yahuwah. This was always a part of Elohim's plan for humanity, was that all people might be saved. Hence the Messiah, when he walked the earth, he said, if I be lifted up, I will draw all men unto me. It goes on in verses 8 through 10, it says, the Adonai of Yahuwah, which gather up the outcast of Israel, saith, yet will I gather others to him beside those that are gathered unto him. All ye beasts of the field come to devour. Yea, all ye beasts in the forest. And this is speaking of the Gentiles that will come into the fold. His watchmen are blind. They are all ignorant. They are all dumb dogs. They cannot bark, sleeping, lying down, loving the slumber. Now, since the men of Kiriath Yearim, that is the city of forest, i.e. the righteous Gentiles, has come and brought the ark of Yahuwah, they would take it, that will bring the ark of Yahuwah, they would take it into Abinadab. But just a second witness, you know, to that work that Yah would do concerning those in the forest. We have Micah 5, 8 through 15, and it says, the remnant of Yaakov shall be among the Gentiles, in the midst of many people as a lion among the beasts of the forest. So again, as a young lion among the flocks of the sheep, who if he go through, both tread down and tear in pieces, and none can deliver. Thine hand shall be lifted up upon thine adversaries, and all thine enemies shall be cut off. And it shall come to pass in that day, saith Yahuwah, that I will cut off thy horses out of the midst of thee. I will destroy thy chariots. I will cut off the cities of thy land, and throw down all thy strongholds. I will cut off witchcrafts out of thine hand, and thou shalt have no more soothsayers. Thy graven images also will I cut off, and thy standing images out of the midst of thee. Thou shalt no more worship the work of thine hands, and I will pluck up thy groves out of the midst of thee. So will I destroy thy cities, and I will execute vengeance in the anger and my fury upon the heathen, such as they have not heard. You know, so again, you know, this is a work that Yah is doing. His ark would have to go into the forest so that the plucking and gathering of Elohim can take place there too, so that the Gentiles can come in. 1 Samuel 7, 3 through 6, and Shemuel spake unto all the house of Israel, saying, if ye do return unto Yahuwah with all your hearts. See, and this is who he's speaking to now today. These are the ones who replaced the Aaronic priesthood during this time, the Shemuels, you know, the one who's hearing of Elohim. You know, the Simon Bar-Jonas, the hearing ones, the hearing sons of the Ruach HaKodesh. Same as the Shemuels, those who are hearing of Elohim. He spake unto all the house of Israel, and this is the cry that's going out today. If ye do return unto Yahuwah of all your hearts, then put away the strange gods and the Asherah from among you, and prepare your hearts unto Yahuwah and serve him only. He will deliver you out of the hand of the Philistines. He will deliver us from our enemies. Then the children of Israel did put away the Baalim and the Asherah and served Yahuwah only. And Shemuel said, gather all Israel to Mizpah, and I will pray for you unto Yahuwah. Mizpah, it means watchtower. So gather them all to watch. Watch and pray. Isn't that what the Messiah told us before he left? Watch and pray. And they gathered together to Mizpah and drew water. Water speaks of counsel. You know, the water of the word. And poured it out before Yahuwah. And fasted on that day and said there, we have sinned against Yahuwah. And Shemuel judged the children of Israel in Mizpah, in the watchtower. So when they see these things coming to happen, verses 7 through 13, to conclude the matter, and when the Philistines heard that the children of Israel were gathered together to Mizpah, the lords of the Philistines went up against Israel. And when the children of Israel heard it, they were afraid of the Philistines. And we need to know and understand, because it's coming a time, and it's coming fast, that those of us who are the plucking and gathering of Yahuwah, those of us who are the arks of Elohim, when we begin to gather together in spirit and in truth, when we begin to gather together in the watchtowers, the lords of the Philistines will come up against us. They will come up against Israel. And verse 8 goes on to tell us, and the children of Israel said to Shemuel, that is the one that's hearing of Elohim, cease not to cry unto Yahuwah our Elohim for us, that he will save us out of the hand of the Philistines. And Shemuel took a suckling lamb and offered it for a burnt offering holy unto Yahuwah. And Shemuel cried unto Yahuwah for Israel, and Yahuwah heard him. That's none other but standing on our rock, Yahushua HaMashiach, the Lamb of Elohim, and pleading his blood, even as we were singing earlier. And verse 10, and as Shemuel was offering up the burnt offering, the Philistines drew near to battle against Israel, but Yahuwah thundered with a great thunder on that day upon the Philistines and discomfited them. And they were smitten before Israel. So will our enemies be smitten before us. And the men of Israel went out of Mizpah and pursued the Philistines and smote them until they came under Beth-kar. And Beth-kar means the house of the ram. And Shemuel took a stone and set it between Mizpah and Shin and called the name of it Ebenezer, the stone of our help, saying, hitherto have Yahuwah helped us. So the Philistines were subdued, and they came no more into the coast of Israel. And the hand of Yahuwah was against the Philistines all the days of Shemuel the end. You know, Yah will be with us against our enemies as long as we continue to hear of Elohim. As long as we continue to have the glory of Elohim, we continue to be the plucking and gathering of Elohim that gives him his proper weight, that is, that glorifies him. Then we have nothing to fear. That's all I have for you today. Pray it was a blessing unto you.